The distress signal reached Commander Jake Morrison while he was drinking his morning coffee aboard the USS Defiance. The ship's communication officer, Lieutenant Amy Foster, burst onto the bridge with excitement and worry mixed on her face. "Sir, we're getting something strange," she said, handing him a datapad. "It's coming from 17 light-years away. The signal is weak, but it's definitely a distress call." Morrison set down his coffee and studied the data. The message was unlike anything they had received before. It came from a species called the Zilani, and their words painted a picture of complete desperation. The alien voice spoke through the ship's translators. "My name is Elder Vexhari of the Zilani High Council. Our world is dying. The Korthak Empire has come to our system with 47 warships. They demand we surrender our people as slaves and give them our world. We have no weapons of war. We never needed them before. Please, if anyone receives this message, we need help. We have only days before our shields fail." Morrison felt his stomach tighten. The Zilani sounded like a peaceful people who had never hurt anyone. Their message continued with technical details about their attackers. The Korthak Empire was known throughout this part of the galaxy. They were conquerors who enslaved entire planets and stripped worlds of their resources. "Get me Admiral Campbell on secure channel," Morrison ordered. Within minutes, Admiral Lisa Campbell's face appeared on the main screen. She was at Earth Command, thousands of light-years away, but her expression showed she understood the situation immediately. "Jake, I know what you're thinking," she said, "but we have a policy about getting involved in alien conflicts. It's not our fight." "Admiral, with respect, these people are going to die," Morrison replied. "The Zilani have never hurt anyone. They're farmers and artists. The Korthak will either kill them all or make them slaves." Campbell was quiet for a moment. Then Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks, Earth's intelligence officer, appeared beside her on the screen. "Admiral, we need to talk about the bigger picture," Brooks said. "Our intelligence shows the Korthak Empire has been expanding toward human space for the past 2 years. They're not going to stop with the Zilani. Eventually they'll reach our colonies." Campbell's expression changed. "How long before they could threaten human worlds?" "At their current rate of expansion, maybe 5 years," Brooks answered. "But if they take the Zilani world, they'll have a perfect staging ground for attacks on our outer colonies. We could be looking at war whether we want it or not." Morrison leaned forward. "Admiral, we have 3 ships in this sector. The Valiant and the Thunder are only 6 hours away. We could reach the Zilani system in 2 days if we push our engines hard." Admiral Campbell thought for a long moment. Morrison could see her weighing the risks. Humanity had been in space for only 50 years. They had met other alien species, but they had never fought a real war among the stars. "The Korthak have never fought humans before," Campbell said finally. "They don't know what we're capable of. Maybe it's time they learned." She paused, then continued with authority. "Jake, you're authorized to respond to the distress call. Captain Rodriguez and Captain Santos will join you with their ships. Your mission is to protect the Zilani and drive off the Korthak fleet." "Yes, ma'am," Morrison said. "What about rules of engagement?" "The Korthak started this fight by attacking innocent people," Campbell replied. "End it however you need to." The connection ended and Morrison turned to his crew. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Tony Walsh, was already pulling up star charts and fleet positions. "The USS Valiant and USS Thunder will meet us at coordinates 77 Alpha, Walsh reported. "Captain Rodriguez confirms they can be ready to jump in 30 minutes. Morrison nodded. "Amy, send a message back to the Zilani. Tell them help is coming. Tell them to hold on for 2 more days." As the crew prepared for hyperspace travel, Morrison studied everything they knew about the Korthak Empire. The aliens were large reptilian creatures who had built their civilization on conquest. They had never been defeated in battle because they only attacked species that couldn't fight back effectively. Chief Petty Officer Carlos Rivera approached from the engineering station. "Captain, I've been looking at our weapon systems. The quantum phase torpedoes we developed after the Centauri incidents should be able to punch right through Korthak shields. Their technology is designed to stop energy weapons, not our phase technology." Morrison smiled grimly. The Korthak Empire was about to learn why humans had survived on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. Earth had tried to kill humanity with everything from ice ages to volcanic eruptions to predators that could tear a man apart. Humans had not just survived, but had learned to fight back against anything that threatened them. "Rivera, how much firepower can our 3 ships generate compared to the Korthak fleet?" Rivera consulted his datapad. Sir, if the intelligence reports are accurate, we're outnumbered about 15 to 1. But our ships were built for fighting other humans. Human weapons are designed to kill things that are really, really hard to kill. The ship's doctor, Susan White, joined the conversation from her medical station. Captain, I've been reading about Zilani biology. They're a peaceful species that evolved on a low-gravity world with no major predators. They probably can't even imagine the kind of warfare humans are capable of. Morrison looked around at his crew. They were all volunteers who had joined Earth's Navy, knowing they might have to fight alien species someday. They came from a world where every generation had faced some kind of war or disaster. Fighting was in their blood. Listen up, everyone, Morrison announced to the entire ship. We're about to make first contact with an enemy that has never lost a battle. They think they know what war looks like because they've been picking on peaceful species for centuries. They have no idea what's coming. The USS Defiance jumped to hyperspace, followed closely by the Valiant and the Thunder. Behind them, Earth Command began mobilizing additional ships just in case. Admiral Campbell had a feeling that this battle would change how the galaxy saw humanity forever. As the 3 human ships traveled through hyperspace toward the Zilani system, Elder Vexhari received Morrison's message. For the first time in days, the alien leader felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. He didn't know anything about humans or where they came from, but something in Commander Morrison's voice suggested these newcomers were different from any species the galaxy had seen before. War Chief Grokthul, commanding the Korthak fleet from his flagship, also intercepted the human message. He laughed at the idea of 3 small ships challenging his entire invasion force. The war chief had conquered 17 worlds and enslaved millions of beings. These humans would be just another easy victory to add to his record. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system and immediately saw the destruction. Korthak warships were firing on the planet's surface, turning the beautiful crystal cities of the Zilani into rubble. Smaller enemy ships chased down civilian evacuation vessels, destroying them one by one. Commander Morrison felt anger rise in his chest as he watched innocent people being murdered. Amy, open a channel to the Korthak fleet. Channel open, sir, Lieutenant Foster replied. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the United Earth Navy, Morrison said calmly. You are attacking a peaceful species without provocation. Withdraw from the system immediately. The response came quickly. The main screen showed a massive reptilian creature with scars covering his face and arms. War Chief Grokthul looked at Morrison with obvious amusement. Another weak species comes to die with the Zilani, Grokthul said, his voice deep and threatening. I am War Chief Grokthul of the Korthak Empire. I have destroyed 17 worlds and enslaved millions. Your 3 tiny ships cannot stop the inevitable. Morrison exchanged glances with his tactical officer, Tony Walsh. Both men had fought in the Centauri border wars, where humans had learned hard lessons about space combat. War Chief, you're making a mistake, Morrison said. We're giving you one chance to leave peacefully. After that, we stop being polite. Grokthul's laughter echoed through the communication channel. You dare threaten the Korthak Empire? I offer you the same choice I gave the Zilani. Surrender now and serve us as slaves or be destroyed with them. Morrison looked directly into the alien's eyes. We choose option 3. There is no option 3, Grokthul snarled. Yes, there is, Morrison replied quietly. We kill all of you. The communication ended. Grokthul immediately ordered his fighters to attack the human ships, expecting an easy victory. He had fought dozens of species, and they all followed the same pattern. When faced with superior numbers, they either surrendered or died quickly. The Korthak fighters moved toward the human fleet in a standard attack formation. They had energy shields designed to stop the plasma weapons used by most galactic species. Their tactics were based on overwhelming firepower and intimidation. Tony, you may fire when ready, Morrison said calmly. The USS Defiance launched a spread of quantum phase torpedoes that completely surprised the Korthak pilots. Instead of bouncing off their shields, the human weapons passed right through the energy barriers and exploded inside the enemy ships. 6 Korthak fighters disappeared in brilliant flashes of light. Captain Sam Rodriguez aboard the USS Valiant coordinated with Morrison's ship to implement human combined arms tactics. While the Defiance used its phase torpedoes to punch through enemy armor, the Valiant deployed kinetic bombardment rounds that moved too fast for Korthak sensors to track effectively. Captain Maria Santos on the USS Thunder took a different approach. Her ship began jamming Korthak communications and sensor systems, blinding the enemy fleet to human movements. The aliens had never faced electronic warfare before, and their rigid command structure began to break down. The human pilots flying fighter support missions quickly proved their superiority. They had trained in Earth's dangerous atmosphere where a single mistake meant death. The Korthak pilots, used to fighting in the controlled environment of space against defenseless targets, found themselves completely outmatched. Lieutenant Commander Walsh monitored the battle from his tactical station. "Captain, our weapons are only operating at 60% power to avoid overloading our systems. We're designed to fight other humans, and human ships are a lot tougher than anything these aliens have." Morrison nodded. Humanity had spent centuries developing weapons that could kill other humans, who were notoriously difficult to kill. Human military technology assumed the enemy would be smart, adaptable, and extremely dangerous. The Korthak were used to fighting species that gave up when faced with superior force. "Carlos, how are our engines holding up?" Morrison asked his chief engineer. Chief Petty Officer Rivera checked his readings. "We're running well within normal parameters, sir. These ships were built for extended combat operations. We can keep this up all day." The battle continued for 2 hours, and the tide kept turning in favor of the humans. Korthak ships that had dominated dozens of worlds found themselves being systematically destroyed by 3 vessels they had thought would be easy targets. War Chief Grokthal watched in growing fury as his invasion fleet took heavy casualties. He had never experienced anything like this. The humans fought with a coordination and ruthlessness that seemed impossible. They protected each other while simultaneously attacking with precision that suggested years of combat experience. "How are they doing this?" Grokthal demanded of his tactical officer. "War Chief, their technology is completely unknown to us," the officer replied nervously. "Their weapons ignore our shields. Their ships move like fighters despite their size, and their coordination suggests a level of battlefield awareness we have never encountered." On the planet below, Elder Vexhari and his people watched the battle through their failing defensive screens. The Zelani had never seen anything like human warfare. The 3 ships moved like they were part of a single organism, each supporting the others while striking at Korthak weaknesses with surgical precision. "What manner of beings are these humans?" Elder Vexhari asked his science advisor. "I don't know, Elder," the advisor replied, "but they fight like they were born for war. Look how they move, how they coordinate their attacks. It's as if combat is their natural state." Morrison made a tactical decision that confused the Korthak completely. Instead of pressing his advantage, he ordered the human fleet to withdraw behind the planet's largest moon. Grokthal assumed the humans were retreating in defeat and ordered his ships to resume bombarding the planet. What the war chief didn't understand was that humans never retreated from a fight they were winning. Morrison was using the break in combat to analyze Korthak weaknesses and plan a more devastating assault. The brief engagement had given the humans everything they needed to know about their enemy's capabilities and limitations. "Tony, what did we learn?" Morrison asked as the 3 human ships regrouped. "Sir, they're tactically inflexible," Walsh replied. "They use the same formations and strategies against every enemy. Their command structure is completely centralized, so if we take out their leadership, the whole fleet will fall apart." Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the communication channel. "Jake, I'm reading massive energy signatures from their command ship. If we can take out Grokthal, this fight is over." Morrison smiled. The Korthak had made the classic mistake of underestimating humans. They thought 3 ships couldn't threaten 47, but they had never fought a species that had survived on a world where everything was designed to kill them. "All ships, prepare for Phase 2, Morrison ordered. "Let's show these aliens why you never corner a human." Behind the moon, the 3 human commanders held a quick strategy meeting using quantum communication. Admiral Campbell's voice reached them from Earth Command with new authorization. "Jake, I'm unlocking the classified protocols," Campbell said. "You have permission to use any means necessary to end this threat. The entire galaxy is watching, and we need to send a clear message about what happens when someone attacks innocent people." Commander Morrison studied the tactical data his crew had gathered during the first engagement. The Korthak fleet was powerful, but it had critical weaknesses that only humans would think to exploit. "Sam, Maria, here's what we're going to do," Morrison said to his fellow captains. "The Korthak command structure is completely rigid. They take all orders from War Chief Grokthal. If we eliminate him, Their entire fleet will fall into chaos. Captain Rodriguez nodded from his position aboard the USS Valiant. The command ship is heavily armored, but our phase torpedoes should be able to penetrate their defenses. Captain Santos aboard the USS Thunder had been analyzing enemy communications. I've been listening to their battle chatter. They've never fought an enemy that uses independent command structures. Each of their ships waits for direct orders before taking action. Morrison realized this was humanity's greatest advantage. Human military doctrine was based on independent thinking and rapid adaptation. Every human officer was trained to make decisions without waiting for orders from above. The Korthak system was designed for fighting predictable enemies, not humans who could improvise and adapt in real time. Carlos, status on our modified torpedoes? Morrison asked his chief engineer. Chief Petty Officer Rivera smiled. Sir, I've programmed them to seek out command and control centers specifically. Instead of trying to destroy the whole ship, they'll target the bridge and communication systems. The human counterattack began with a maneuver that shocked the Korthak fleet. Captain Santos ordered the USS Thunder to enter the planet's atmosphere, something the aliens had never seen a warship do. Korthak technology was designed only for space combat, and they watched in disbelief as a human ship began operating in an environment they considered impossible for large vessels. From within the atmosphere, the Thunder provided direct support to Zelani evacuation sites. Human fighters led by Commander Lisa Hayes engaged Korthak ground forces that were hunting civilian refugees. The human pilots, trained in Earth's hostile atmospheric conditions, easily outmaneuvered alien aircraft that were designed for sterile space environments. This is impossible, War Chief Grockthal snarled as he watched the human ship operate in the planet's atmosphere. No warship can function in such conditions. His tactical officer was equally confused. War Chief, the humans seem to design their ships for operations in hostile environments. Their technology assumes they will encounter dangerous conditions. Meanwhile, Morrison and Rodriguez coordinated their attack on the Korthak command ship. They approached from two different angles, using the planet's gravity well to mask their approach. The Korthak sensors were designed to detect ships in open space, not vessels using planetary bodies for concealment. Tony, lock quantum phase torpedoes on the command ship's bridge, Morrison ordered. Carlos, are you sure these modifications will work? Rivera checked his readings one final time. Sir, instead of random detonation, the torpedoes will phase through their hull and explode specifically inside their command center. It should eliminate their leadership while leaving the rest of the ship intact. The attack began with precision that demonstrated human tactical thinking. Both the USS Defiance and USS Valiant fired their modified torpedoes simultaneously, creating multiple phase signatures that confused Korthak defensive systems. The quantum phase torpedoes passed through the command ship's armor like it didn't exist. They materialized inside the bridge and detonated with devastating effect. War Chief Grockthal and his senior staff were killed instantly, along with the ship's primary command and control systems. The effect on the Korthak fleet was immediate and dramatic. Without central command, individual ship captains began arguing over who should take control. Some wanted to continue the attack. Others demanded they withdraw to report the human threat to their superiors. Captain Santos exploited the confusion by broadcasting a message to the entire Korthak fleet in their own language, which her communications officer had learned from intercepted transmissions. This is Captain Maria Santos of the United Earth Navy, she announced. Your war chief is dead. Your invasion is over. You have one choice. Leave this system immediately or we will destroy every one of your ships. The Korthak response revealed how little they understood about human nature. Several ship captains demanded single combat to determine new leadership, a concept that made no sense to humans who viewed war as a team effort requiring coordination and sacrifice. They want individual combat, Morrison asked incredulously. Tony, show them what human teamwork looks like. All three human ships coordinated their weapon systems for a devastating display of firepower. They targeted multiple Korthak vessels simultaneously, overwhelming the alien fleet with the kind of coordinated assault that only a species forged in constant warfare could conceive. The remaining Korthak ships found themselves facing something they had never encountered, an enemy that became more dangerous when outnumbered. Human tactical doctrine was based on the assumption that they would always be fighting superior numbers. So their entire military philosophy was built around overcoming impossible odds. Lieutenant Commander Walsh coordinated the targeting systems across all 3 ships. "Sir, we're achieving 95% hit ratios. Their formation is collapsing." Dr. Susan White, monitoring communications from her medical station, reported something that chilled the human crews. "Captain, the Korthak are experiencing something their species has never encountered before. Their communications indicate they're feeling genuine fear." Morrison realized they were witnessing the collapse of an empire that had been built on intimidating peaceful species. The Korthak had never faced an enemy that fought back with intelligence, coordination, and the absolute refusal to surrender. The battle turned into a rout, as more Korthak ships tried to flee the system. Of the original 47 vessels, fewer than 20 remained operational. Their invasion force had been destroyed by 3 human ships in less than 6 hours. On the planet below, Elder Vex Hari watched human Marines, led by Colonel Steve Parker, coordinate relief efforts with an efficiency that spoke to humanity's experience with disaster response on their dangerous homeworld. The humans moved through the devastated areas with purpose, organizing medical aid and evacuation procedures with military precision. "Elder," his science advisor said quietly, "these humans fight like they were born on a world trying to kill them. Look how they move, how they think. Everything they do suggests a species that has survived constant danger." Elder Vex Hari nodded slowly. "They saved us, but I think we may have just witnessed the galaxy's introduction to something unprecedented. These humans are not just warriors. They are something far more dangerous and far more noble. They are protectors who refuse to let innocent people die." War Chief Grokthal was dead, his fleet was broken, and the Korthak Empire had suffered its first major defeat in centuries. But the real significance of the battle was just beginning to be understood throughout the galaxy. Humanity had announced its presence as a species that would respond to calls for help, regardless of the odds against them. Elder Vex Hari requested permission to visit the USS Defiance personally. When he materialized in the ship's transport bay, he immediately understood why the humans had been so effective in battle. Everything about them suggested a species that had evolved under constant threat. The human crew moved with a predatory awareness that Elder Vex Hari had never seen before. Their eyes constantly scanned for potential dangers. Their reflexes were impossibly fast, and even their casual conversations included references to violence that most civilized species found disturbing. Commander Morrison escorted the Zelani leader to the ship's conference room, where Lieutenant Commander Brooks provided a briefing that astounded the alien visitor. "Elder Vex Hari, humanity evolved on a planet called Earth," Brooks explained. "Our world tried to kill us with everything from ice ages to volcanic eruptions to predatory animals that could tear apart a full-grown human. We didn't just survive these conditions, we learned to thrive in them." The elders struggled to understand how any species could develop under such hostile circumstances. "How is this possible? Most worlds that support life are relatively stable." Dr. Susan White joined the conversation from her medical station. "Earth is what we call a death world, Elder. The gravity is high, the weather is extreme, and nearly everything evolved there is designed to kill something else. Human children develop physical capabilities that exceed adult members of most spacefaring species." She showed him biological data that made the Zelani leader's eyes widen in shock. Human bone density, muscle composition, reaction times, and cardiovascular efficiency were all optimized for survival in lethal conditions. Even basic human physiology was geared toward fighting and surviving threats that would kill most other species. "Your bodies are living weapons," Elder Vex Hari said quietly. "But what about your minds?" Morrison answered that question. "Elder, humans learned that cooperation and sacrifice were essential for survival. We developed strong social bonds because isolated individuals died quickly. We also learned to turn anything into a weapon when necessary, and to never give up when protecting our people." The conversation was interrupted when Captain Rodriguez reported that long-range sensors had detected a massive new fleet approaching the system. Lieutenant Foster's face went pale as she analyzed the incoming signals. "Sir, it's another Korthak force," she announced. "Over 100 ships, including their largest dreadnought. The fleet is commanded by Supreme War Chief Dakthal, who appears to be Grokthal's superior." Elder Vex Hari felt despair wash over him. Even the miraculous humans couldn't stand against such overwhelming numbers. But Morrison's response demonstrated something the Elder would later describe as humanity's most terrifying trait. When faced with impossible odds, humans didn't surrender or despair, they became more dangerous. "Amy, get me Admiral Campbell on Priority Channel," Morrison ordered calmly. Admiral Campbell's face appeared on the main screen within minutes. "Jake, our long-range sensors confirm the approaching fleet. You're facing odds of more than 30 to 1. Admiral, I'm requesting authorization for Protocol 7, Morrison said quietly. Campbell's expression became very serious. "Jake, Protocol 7 has never been tested in actual combat. We don't know what the consequences might be." Lieutenant Commander Brooks interrupted with intelligence data that changed everything. "Admiral, we've intercepted Korthak communications. Supreme War Chief Dactyl isn't just coming to avenge their defeat. He's declared what they call a cleansing war against both the Zilani and humanity. The Korthak Empire has decided that humans represent an unacceptable threat to their expansion plans." Admiral Campbell was quiet for a long moment. "If they want to declare war on humanity, they'll learn why that's a mistake. Jake, you have authorization for Protocol 7. Additional reinforcements are being dispatched immediately. 2 new ships appeared on the tactical display, the experimental vessels USS Fury and USS Retribution, commanded by Captains Nicole Taylor and Brandon Clark. These ships carried weapon systems that pushed the boundaries of human technology and represented humanity's preparation for fighting enemies they hadn't even encountered yet. Elder Vexhari realized he was about to witness something unprecedented in galactic history. The humans weren't just preparing to defend themselves. They were getting ready to demonstrate why their species had become the apex predator of their homeworld. "Commander Morrison," the Elder said carefully, "my people have extensive diplomatic networks throughout this region of space. Many species have suffered under Korthak expansion, but have never been able to fight back effectively." Morrison looked interested. "What are you suggesting, Elder?" "I can contact other species that have lost worlds to the Korthak Empire. If you're willing to lead them, we might be able to organize the first real resistance the galaxy has ever seen." Dr. White spoke up from her station. "Captain, it would be poetic justice. The Korthak built their empire by attacking species that couldn't defend themselves. Now they're about to face a coalition led by the one species that specializes in protecting others." Morrison made a decision that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. "Elder, contact everyone you can reach. Tell them that humanity stands with all free peoples against tyranny. If they're willing to fight, we'll show them how." Within hours, Elder Vexhari's diplomatic network had spread the word throughout dozens of star systems. Species that had cowered before Korthak might for generations began sending their ships to join the human fleet. The Meridian Collective contributed vessels with advanced shielding technology. The Helix Commonwealth provided ships with long-range sensors and communication systems, but all participants understood that the human ships would lead the actual combat. The other species had tried diplomacy, economic pressure, and defensive strategies. Only humans had the experience and mindset necessary for offensive warfare against a militaristic empire. Captain Clark aboard the USS Retribution began implementing the first phase of Protocol 7 by deploying quantum phase mines throughout the star system. These weapons were invisible to Korthak sensors and would create a 3-dimensional maze that would channel the enemy fleet into predetermined kill zones. "Elder," Morrison said as they watched the coalition fleet assemble, "your people called for help and we answered. But I think you should understand what you've started here. Humanity doesn't fight wars to win territory or resources. We fight to protect people who can't protect themselves." Elder Vexhari nodded slowly. "I'm beginning to understand, Commander. You didn't just save my people. You've given the entire galaxy hope that the strong can stand up for the weak." The massive Korthak fleet was approaching rapidly, led by Supreme War Chief Dactyl in his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. The alien commander expected to find the ruins of a human force and finish what his subordinate had started. Instead, he was about to encounter something that no Korthak had ever faced: a coalition of free species led by beings who had evolved specifically to survive and protect others. Morrison looked around at his crew one final time before the battle. They were about to fight the largest space battle in galactic history, outnumbered more than 20 to 1. But they were humans, and impossible odds just meant they had to be more creative about winning. Supreme War Chief Dacthyl's massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace expecting to find the scattered remains of a human force. Instead, they encountered something unprecedented in Korthak military history. A coalition fleet organized and led by humans, with the USS Defiance at its center. The alien commander stared at his tactical display in confusion. Over 60 ships from different species had gathered around the 3 original human vessels. The formation looked chaotic to Korthak eyes, but there was an underlying coordination that suggested careful planning. "What is this?" Dacthyl demanded of his tactical officer. "How did these weak species organize themselves?" "Supreme War Chief, intelligence indicates the humans are coordinating the entire fleet," the officer replied nervously. "They seem to have convinced other species to join them in resisting our expansion." Dacthyl laughed, but it sounded forced. "Impossible. No species has ever successfully organized resistance against the Korthak Empire. We will crush them all and make an example that will terrify the galaxy for generations." On the USS Defiance, Commander Morrison prepared to address the enemy fleet directly. Elder Vexhari stood beside him on the bridge, watching as humanity prepared to make its mark on galactic history. "Open a channel to the Korthak fleet," Morrison ordered. When the connection was established, Morrison's voice carried across space to every ship in Dacthyl's armada. "Supreme War Chief Dacthyl, I am Commander Jake Morrison of the United Earth Navy. You have 2 choices: withdraw from this system immediately and never return, or face the consequences of threatening innocent people." Dactyl's massive form appeared on the main screen. He was even larger than Grokthul had been, with scars covering his body from decades of conquest. "Human, you dare threaten the Supreme War Chief of the Korthak Empire? I have conquered 43 worlds and enslaved billions. Your pathetic coalition will be destroyed, and your species will be eliminated as a threat to Korthak destiny." Morrison's response was calm and measured. "Dacthyl, you've built your empire by attacking people who couldn't fight back. Today you learn what happens when you threaten someone who can." The battle began when Captain Taylor aboard the USS Fury implemented human escalation doctrine. Instead of engaging the massive dreadnought directly, the human ships targeted the Korthak formation leaders, systematically destroying the coordination vessels that maintained the enemy's battle line. The quantum phase mines that Captain Clark had deployed began activating as Korthak ships moved through the system. The invisible weapons created explosions that seemed to come from empty space, channeling the enemy fleet into kill zones where human weapons could be most effective. Supreme War Chief Dacthyl quickly realized that his enemy was unlike anything the Korthak Empire had encountered. The human fleet used hit-and-run tactics, appearing suddenly to strike key targets before disappearing behind asteroids and planetary bodies. "They fight like cowards," Dacthyl snarled. "They refuse to meet us in honorable combat." His tactical officer studied the human patterns carefully. "Supreme War Chief, I don't think they consider this cowardice. They seem to view warfare as a problem to be solved, rather than a test of strength. Every attack is precisely calculated for maximum effect." The coalition ships, guided by human tactical coordination, began demonstrating the power of cooperative warfare. The Meridian Collective's advanced shields protected smaller vessels, while Helix Commonwealth sensor ships provided targeting data that allowed precise strikes against Korthak weak points. Dr. White, monitoring enemy communications from her medical station, reported something that surprised the human crew. "Captain, the Korthak crews are reporting equipment failures throughout their fleet, but their technology is working fine. What they're experiencing is something their species has never encountered before: fear." Morrison realized they were witnessing the psychological collapse of an empire built on intimidation. The Korthak had spent centuries attacking species that surrendered when faced with superior force. They had no experience fighting enemies that refused to be intimidated and actually became more dangerous when outnumbered. The turning point came when Supreme War Chief Dacthyl made a desperate decision. Seeing his fleet being systematically destroyed by an enemy he couldn't understand, he ordered his dreadnought, the Eternal Conquest, to ram the USS Defiance. If he could destroy the human flagship, he believed the coalition would fall apart. Morrison watched the massive ship approaching and made a choice that defined humanity's place in the galaxy. Instead of trying to escape, he ordered his ship to meet the charge head-on, while coordinating with his fleet for a precision strike against the dreadnought's power core. "All ships, this is Morrison," he announced calmly. "Target the Eternal Conquest's main reactor. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten innocent people." Elder Vex Hari, watching from the Defiance's bridge, witnessed something that would be remembered throughout galactic history. As the massive Korthak dreadnought approached, Morrison maintained perfect calm while orchestrating a coordinated attack that involved dozens of ships from multiple species. The combined firepower of the human-led fleet, guided by quantum targeting systems and battlefield networks that only humans could have conceived, overwhelmed the dreadnought's defenses. The Eternal Conquest broke apart under the assault, taking Supreme War Chief Dakthul and his command staff with it. Captain Rodriguez reported from the USS Valiant. "Jake, the remaining Korthak ships are requesting terms of surrender. Their entire command structure just collapsed." Morrison looked at Elder Vex Hari, who nodded slowly. "Accept their surrender," Morrison ordered. "But make it clear that if they ever threaten innocent people again, we'll find them." The battle was over. The Korthak Empire had suffered its first major defeat, losing over 80 ships and both of their senior military commanders. More importantly, the galaxy had witnessed something unprecedented: multiple species working together under human leadership to defeat a common threat. In the aftermath, Elder Vex Hari addressed the Galactic Council via quantum communication. "Distinguished members," he said, "I formally request that humanity be recognized as a protector species. They represent something our galaxy has never seen. Warriors who fight not for conquest, but for the protection of others." The response from across the galaxy was immediate. Species that had suffered under various military empires began sending their own desperate pleas for aid to human space. Earth Command realized that humanity had accidentally become the galaxy's protectors. Commander Morrison received new orders from Admiral Campbell. "Jake, the human fleet is being reassigned to patrol the galactic rim. It seems that when civilized species face extinction from various threats, they now know who to call." Morrison looked out at the stars, thinking about humanity's new role in the galaxy. They had never sought to become protectors, but their evolution on a death world had given them both the capability and the responsibility to answer when others cried for help. He made his final log entry about the battle. The Zalani called for aid when facing extinction, and their plea was answered by beings who had learned to survive on a world that tried to kill them every day. "We are humans, and we come from Earth. When innocent people are threatened, we will be there. The galaxy will never be the same." Elder Vex Hari remained on the USS Defiance as it began its patrol duties, serving as humanity's first alien diplomatic advisor. He often told visitors that the day his people called for help was the day the galaxy discovered that somewhere among the stars, there was a species that would always answer when the weak needed protection from the strong. The Korthak Empire never recovered from their defeat. Their remaining territories fell into civil war as various war chiefs fought for control, but more importantly, their defeat had shown the galaxy that military empires could be challenged and defeated by species willing to work together under proper leadership. Humanity had become the Death Worlders, who answered desperate pleas for aid, and the galaxy was indeed never the same.